Hi, welcome to another tutorial. This one's a very quick messenger bag. It's a flat bag. There's no depth or anything to it. It's just a quick bag to run in and out of across the shoulder. Okay, so what we need, I've pinned these together, but we need an outer fabric for the bag itself. The body of the bag is 15.5 by 11. An inner fabric. This one I've chosen a nice pink, just a cheap poly cotton. It's what I want from the inside of my bag. That one is 15.5 by 11. I've chosen to put a little pocket in, just because I carry so much stuff. And the pocket itself is 10.5 by 5.5. What I've done with the pocket, as you can see, it's ready to sew on. I've sewn round as though you're doing a little bag to turn inside out. So you go around from there all the way around to there, leaving an inch, couple of inches, so you can turn it out the right way. Press it and then pin it onto your bag wherever you want it. The strap, for my strap, is 44 by 4 inches. I've folded it in half, sewn along one edge, turned it the right way out and top stitched, if you can see that with the glare behind me, on either side. So that's ready to go. My flap, which is 13.5 by 8, I've chosen to do the same fabric inside and outside of the flap. On my outside of the flap, I've done some embroidery called shishiko. Just to make it pretty, you could appliqué, just embroider, or leave it plain, whatever you want. On the bottom here, I've attached a hairband, an elasticated hairband. All I've done is sewn over a few times just to keep it there. When this is all sewn together and turned the right way, it will make a little loop. And I have a really pretty button I sort of fell in love with and had to use it. Okay, so let's get started. First thing we need to do is sew all the pieces together. So we'll start with the flap. You've probably noticed, I've popped a fleece on. For the fleece, I cut it the same size as the bag outer and the flap. I use a spray adhesive to keep it in place. I call it pins in a tin. It just makes it much easier if you're using any kind of fleece. You can use bozo, which will give you a more structure look to your bag. You can use the iron-on fleece, pretty much the same as this, but it's just iron application instead of pins in a tin. Okay, so what I'm going to do is sew around 3 sides, both sides, and along the bottom where I've got that elastic band. Again, I'm using the Butterick EB 6100. So we start with needle down and a couple of back stitches to the corner. And as needle's in the down position, I'll just turn these a little bit so you can see. We're just going to lift the foot, turn the fabric, and along we go. I'm using the inner part of the foot that comes with the butterick. It's like a plastic bit as a guide for my fabric. You use whatever you're comfortable with. Just coming up to the elastic band now, I'm going to take the time, go over it, and I want to go back over it a few times. To the corner again, needle down, turn the fabric, make sure that the sides are still lined up, and down we go. Coming to the end, a couple of back stitches, needle up, and off we come. Okay, so what we have now is we've sewn around 3 sides and we need to turn it the right way. I'm just going to trim off my corners, and any of the fleece that's actually walked a little bit, because it does. And then what we have is our flap for the bag with your little elastic sticking out the bottom. So we pop that to one side for the moment. I'm going to pop it across onto the iron board behind me because we are going to press it. Okay, so the next bit is the bag body itself. What I've done, I've just stuck clips around the outside to stop it moving whilst I'm sewing. Again, we're going to sew down one short side along one long side and up the other short side. So foot down, needle down. A couple of back stitches just to hold it, and off we go. To the corner, take your time and stop and turn. When you're sewing with fleece, you might have to just use your fingers to flatten it as you're going because it does stretch. To the corner, needle in a down position, turn the corner. Back up to the third side. When we get to the top, a couple of back stitches and finish it off. Needle up and out of the machine. I am using nothing but a straight stitch on this bag. The stitch I'm using is 3.0 in length and it's in middle position. Again, I'm going to trim off the corners, trim off any of the fleece that's creeped out of the sides. As I say, don't panic, it does that, it's the nature of that fabric. Pop it round the right way and just check you've caught everywhere. So, step 2, the main body of the bag. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly sew around the pocket in my bag. I'm using about 1/4 inch stitch around the outside. It's just a top stitch, nothing to panic about. You do what you're comfortable with. Needle in the down position, couple of back stitches. When we get to the corner, needle in the down position and turn. And again, needle in the down position and turn. Needle up and work out. What I quickly want to do with mine is, that's the pocket there. Yes, I've sewn it in blue thread. Normally I would sew it in pink, but it's just so that you can see. I want to sew a little line, probably about halfway, just so that my foam doesn't fall out when I pop it in. I've pressed my fabric. I pressed the pocket in half so I can see where the midway line is. So I'm just going to follow that line. Just trim all the ends, won't be a second. There we go. Oh, missed one. Just take my pins out that were keeping it in position whilst I sewed it. Okay, so that's what we have. Very simple. Basic stuff, but it's a nice little pocket on the inside. Right, the next bit I have gotten wrong so many times. Popping your two bits of fabric together for your inner. Now we need to sew 3 sides, leaving a gap at the bottom so that when we turn the bag back out, we can pop the bag through the lining, and then we just need to quickly stitch the lining. I'm putting pins in because I don't want to get the pocket upside down inside the bag. So the pins are just going to say to me, okay, this is the end you're going to sew, leave the other end open. I'm not putting them near the edge of my fabric, I'm just putting them in the middle to hold everything still. Okay, so that's the way I'm sewing, because my pocket, the open end, is at the top. I'm going to sew down that side, along the bottom, stop, leave a gap, along the bottom again, and up the other side. Same as always, foot down, needle in down position, and a couple of back stitches. Come to the bottom, stop with the needle in down position. I'm stopping about 2.5 inches from the centre point because I still have that crease from when I put my pocket on. Needle up. And then I'm going to start the same side, the same distance, sorry, at the other side of the crease, so that I've got a nice space in there. Ooh, can't see that way. In there to turn my bag. Needle down, a couple of back stitches. Make sure you always start and finish with back stitches, especially on this hole at the bottom, because you're going to put a lot of pressure on it to get the whole bag through. To the corner, stop with your needle in the down position, turn your work, foot down, needle up and work out. Again, stop with a couple of back stitches. Quickly take these pins out that will hold my fabrics. All I'm doing is quickly trimming off any threads that I may have hanging, because I don't want them interfering with any of my sewn work. I'm going to trim the corners just so when it's all turned the right way, it's a little bit more crisp. Don't trim through the stitching, just trim close to the stitching. Right, this one, I don't turn the right way out, but I'm going to pop it to one side for the moment. This is my main bag. Okay, what we need to do now is quickly press the flap so that it's nice and flat, and then we're going to attach the flap just with a basin stitch, and we're also going to attach the handles at this stage with a basin stitch. So when we pop the lining over the top of it, we know it's all going to stay in place. Pinning you can do, but it can move, so it's always easier just to quickly baste it. So if we quickly pop over here, please excuse the mess, I've got so many projects on the go today. This here is just something you can pop over the top of your ironing to stop the iron from getting marked. Some fabrics leach out the colour, and I found that my iron can go whatever colour the work I'm doing, so I use this over the top. It also stops it sticking to any fabrics that, you know, maybe a little bit prone to melting. As I've got embroidery on here, I'm just using this because it's a little bit easier. The embroidery thread that you use with Sheshiko is cotton, and this is a cotton fabric. This is 100%, I do lie, it's not 100% cotton because it's cotton drill, but it has got a stretch, so there is a slight lycra in it. Unfortunately, I didn't have any of my plain cotton left. Okay, so just going to quickly fold that and nip it, and it should give me a little mark. There it has. And what I have already done is I did fold my fabric and put a little crease in there. You can hardly see it just because it is just a little crease. I'm going to take my little finger press crease that I've popped in, line it up with the back of your bag, with your outside facing the back of your bag. And just take a moment to line it up correctly. Just using a little clip to hold it in place whilst I line the rest up. And just make sure you have the lining, if you use pins in a tin and it's come loose, just push it out the way so it doesn't catch in whilst you're sewing. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull my extension tape off and use the free arm here because it's just easier as I'm moving this bag around. Okay, now remember we said this is going to be a basting stitch, so we need it within your seam allowance. And even when basting, I like to pop in a couple of locking stitches at the end. And this is a lot of fabric with having the two linings, so take your time. Make sure they're pulled together. A fleece lining is going to try and move your whole work. And what's happened on mine is, as I've been sewing, it's moved. Not a problem. You just quickly unpick and move it back again. Sometimes you need a diploma in unpicking before you can start sewing. If you're using a bosal lining, it's less likely to walk the way mine did using the fleece lining. And if things didn't go wrong, it wouldn't be me sewing. Right, there we go. Just get rid of them threads. And go for this again. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend my stitch so it's a bigger stitch. And trim off that fleece that's managed to walk its way out of my flap. Quickly try again. See if I can prevent it from walking away with me this time. This is partly to do with the fleece and it's partly to do with the fabric that I'm using. Because it has got a slight stretch to it, it does sometimes walk. Normally I would use a drill without stretch. Unfortunately today I didn't have any left in my stash. Right, I'm going to pop the needle in down position, so if I have to stop, I know that it's not slipping and sliding. Another thing you can do is pop your walking foot on if you have one. That makes sewing fabrics together much easier, especially with the depth and with having the fleece in here too. And if your fabric is moving, or is likely to move, what you could always do, instead of doing a rectangle flap on it, make it a triangle and asymmetrical. Nobody then knows that it's moved. Okay, so we have the strap. The only thing you've got to worry about with a strap is making sure it isn't twisted. What I do is fold it in half, take that side across to the corner of this bag, line it up. You'll find that with the sizes that I gave you, when you line it up on the side, you've got a little gap. So we're not sewing through 8 layers of fabric. Okay, take it round, make sure it's nice and flat, to the other side, and again, line it up, got the tiny gap there. And pin it on. Again, I'm going to put basin stitches in. As I say, it moves when you're sewing everything together. I'd rather have a few basin stitches in, just so that it's nice and secure. I'm moving my strap up a little bit so it's sticking proud. You don't have to, it's what I prefer to do. And I found as well, if you're basting the strap in, because you're within the seam allowance, you then got 2 layers of sewing, and it makes the strap more secure. Again, I'm moving my strap up just a little bit, just so that I know it's caught. A personal preference, you can line them up flush if you like, just stick it up a little bit. Okie dokie. So trim off the excess because I don't want any bulges and bubbles. With using a navy fabric, it's picking up all the fluff off the fabric I was sewing yesterday. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try and drop the camera a little bit so you can see what I'm doing with the handle. The handle itself, we need to keep away from where we're sewing. If you just fold it and fold it back, make sure you don't pull on these sides because obviously you need to sew them. Pop a little clip on it, a hair bubble, something just to hold it together. Then you know it's not walking away, getting caught in your lining. Okay, so the bag is the right way out. Okay, your flap is still folded to the back, your handle there. Take the bag the right way out and place it inside the lining. What I've just done, I've turned it round so that my pocket is at the back of my bag where my flap is. Place your bag inside of your lining and just shuggle it around a little bit. It'll be a bit bulky and not want to fit, so you just manipulate it. And what we're going to do is line up our seams at either side. Again, I'm just going to clip it on. It's easy, I can move them as I'm going round. The reason I'm clipping at the sides and lining up them seams is because that's where my handles are. And I want to make sure they're nice and secure, not buckled up or bent over or anything to that description. Okay. Everything seems to be fitting nicely. Quick clip just to keep them lined up. Right, at the back of the bag, obviously you have your flap inside as well. So we're sewing through a few layers. Pin or clip as you feel necessary. to keep them all nicely lined up. Okie dokie. Again, I'm going to leave my table off my sewing machine. Just makes it easier. Using my foot as a guide. Just going to pop my thread under my foot to make it easier. I'm using the outer edge of my foot as the guide along the top of the fabric. Then I know that the seams I've done prior to this are going to be enclosed in the stitch line going round. Needle in the down position because we will be stopping and starting as we manipulate the fabric round. Back stitch. What I am going to do just before I start going is drop this back down to a 3.0 length. Very simply, just taking my time and popping around the bag. I slowed everything right off there because I was going across the handles. There's a lot of thickness. Just making sure that this lining's in there. Remember, you can always ease your fabrics in. As you come to where your stitch ends are joining, just make sure you're running them straight and back stitch. Needle up, work out of the machine. And now for the part to see if I've left enough space in the bottom of my lining. Always best to leave a little bit more space than it is to leave less. Taking your time and just wiggling it through and the bag will come loose. Okay, so now we have the bag. Pop the lining inside and drop everything on the floor. Right, what I like to do now is top stitch around the bag. It gives a nice professional finish. You don't have to, you could just press that back and that would look just as nice. I'm just going to pop a top stitch round. Just take my little clip off my handles. I normally press before I top stitch, but for the sake of this tutorial I'm just going to pop around without. Most people will say use 1/8 of an inch. Use what you're comfortable with, just try and keep it even all the way around. Right, the reason I'm taking my time there is because I need to pull out the flap. Tuck my handle through so I'm not catching that as I sew along the back. And then very carefully push my lining in so it's not buckled, and sew over the end. As I say, it is best to press this before you top stitch, and then you know everything's equal. You can even pop a few pins in to keep your lining from slipping off. Just going to trim these little threads before I get round to them, so I don't sew them in. Check my linings down, my handle straight and my back's in line. There we go. Taking my time to line my stitches up. A couple of back stitches, needle up, work out and trim the threads. Okay, so what we have now, it'll be a second, I'm just moving the camera so we can go up again because we have finished sewing, is a nice pretty lining with the pockets at the back, my lovely embroidered flap that comes over the top with an attached handle. As I say, for me, that's perfect length for crossbody. You make the handle whatever length you wish. All I need to do now is go away and hand sew my pretty little button on, and we'll have a completed bag. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please remember, press subscribe below and like the video. See you next time.